All right. Well, hello everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Sunday night. Welcome to part 2 of my 2006 Selkirk Branch / Albany area / whatever photos. Yesterday was a really fun time. We went through a lot of stuff. Anyone who might not be live, you should probably go and listen to the first part. There's a lot of interesting things that got covered. I'm not sure we're going to get all of them today because I'm just be repeating myself. Anyway, this trip is, like I said, is taking place in the Albany area. Yesterday we did some stuff up at the old EXO Tower at Mechanicsville. There's Albany, by the way. Today we're going to be on the Selkirk Branch. Right now at Rotterdam Junction, CPRJ, which is a few miles, about 3 miles east of where the freight route diverges from the old passenger line, which is currently good for about, which is currently one of Amtrak's 110-mile-an-hour lines up at that joins at CP 169, and then we're going to head down to this area, the area formerly known as CPVO, and then I think that's going to cover everything we've got. So it's just going to be a few more RJ photos and then some stuff down at CPVO, and that should wrap things up. So anyway, like I was saying before, RJ was is the transfer point between the D&H and Conrail, now Canadian Pacific and CSX. There's still a bunch of interchange traffic in there. It was re-signaled sometime in the 2008 time frame. So in 2006, everything looked hunky-dory. There was no sign of signaling. CSX was way more aggressive at re-signaling its New York Central main line than Norfolk Southern was for its PRR route. The way that stuff came down really caught me by surprise. I think, and the real unfortunate is that they swapped everything over to the Seaboard style, which is just a real affront to the legacy of the Central and Conrail. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, so it's just the old Conrail relay box. That's just part of it. Was I think it was a little older than it looked. At least some of the stuff was in terms of how that was justified. I mean, it was a full Rule 261 CTC, no pole line, which made it look pretty straightforward. But even then, Conrail was installing new relay plants up through the 80s. So I assume that this stuff was probably 1970s vintage. Though not all of it. Some of it was definitely newer. But it was inconsistent. And they generally went east to west. But one of the things is I just never really had a good reason to ride a lot of Empire service, especially out to Buffalo, Niagara Falls. One of the major reasons is there's absolutely no way you could ever do any sort of round trip on that. Maybe, no, that's not entirely true. I think you could have gotten out there, stayed overnight in Buffalo, but you would have. You see, you would have had to have stayed overnight in Depew, Buffalo Depew Station. You would have. Whatever the last Empire would have gotten dropped off at, and you would have had to stay overnight there, and there's nothing at that Amshack. I did that. I did things like that with people. I'd go out on the Cap or the Three Rivers out to the Pennsylvanian, out to like Cleveland or Alliance. I talked about those in previous things. By the way, this is the what I'm assuming is going to be the 5 switches there. There's going to be the 7 switch. There's 2 interchange tracks that CPRJ connects with. They're not, I don't think they're main tracks, but it still splits to 2. Anyway, I was in a position to get out to Alliance in Pittsburgh and Cleveland to do those sort of overnight things. I didn't do a lot, but I did have a friend that I could have done some weird New York stuff with, but it just never came up. Here we have the dwarfs on the interchange track. unfortunately, I this is where it becomes very difficult to figure out. While the switches are pretty straightforward in figuring out their numbering, even if you just have one, signals way less so. It's going to be either, you're going to have they're even. So there's going to be a pair of a 2E and a 4E are likely going to be your main lines. This could be 6. This could be numbered with a dash, like a 2E-1, 2E-2, 2E-3. You just never quite know what they're going to be. So I don't even know which one this is. Okay. But usually the way these work is that I'm just going to guess that these would probably be 4E, 4W-2. The other one would be 4W-3. Just based on what I've known from the Pittsburgh line set. Whenever you sort of have these branching ones, one's going to be a 2E and 2W. The other one's going to be 4, and the 4. If you have these little like side tracks, they get lumped in with the one that's closest. So is this going to be 2 or 4? I don't know, but I'm just going to guess it's going to be 4, just based on how the switches are sort of lined up. It's very interesting on these. Hold on here, 4W-2. It's sort of interesting how Conrail went through the small target searchlight phase, not just on the central. It used to be like, oh, it's a PRR track, I'll do a position light. It's a central track, I'll do whatever. They went to sort of this small target SA searchlight system-wide for a few years. It's like right after after the 80s, in the late 80s, early 90s, it was these small target searchlights. Like CP Harris got the small target searchlights. And then Conrail went full on with its the tri-lights as its standard up through 99. But it's still pretty interesting that I think that these, it's hard to tell what was Central and what was Conrail, because Conrail did a lot of early resignaling on the Central using these searchlights. So it's hard. It's still very difficult to tell what was an original Central and what was Conrail. On the signal bridges you'd get, those were clearly Conrail modifications. Yeah, it's still tough to tell. The Central is, because both the Central itself and Conrail both engaged in a good amount of improvement plans. This is, again, back to the 4W-2. This old camera I had, the one thing, it had really interesting reds and green. Just when you had these straight-on photos and with the foliage behind them, it always made it look really nice. Just one of the things of how the color balance worked. I switched after this. I got another round of Olympus, and then I went to Canon because Olympus basically stopped making anything. At least the type of camera that I used for a lot of my rail fanning, they stopped. Like Olympus, you couldn't even get them with like aperture or shutter priority modes. They went very, very consumer grade. Even though like the lensing and everything else about it was the same, they just didn't give you those what I thought were just brain dead modes. They just turned everything into it's night mode, it's sports mode. They gave you sort of baskets of things, and that just wasn't going to be doing it for me. So I switched to the Canon PowerShot series for my sort of mobile camera. My DSLR that I have is nearing 10 years old, and I wanted to get during the pandemic. My friend was like, "Nah, don't worry, we're not going anywhere. You just wait a bunch, and we'll get one." And then suddenly, like, electronics prices are all skyrocketing now, and meanwhile, like, my DSLR is just not cutting it. Not so I don't know. Got a good lens for it though. Okay, so here again, if this was anywhere, this is 2006. If this was a couple years later, I would have gotten hundreds of photos of this interlocking. Every switch, every signal, every angle. But unfortunately not. I remember, like, a bunch of years later, I was driving around this area and I saw, like, the distant for this down the tracks, and I was just like, I'll get those next time, you know. Would have had to hike down the tracks in snow, but it was barely a quarter mile away, and oh man, that was a lost opportunity there too. So again, this would be 4W-1. I don't know entirely if that's true, but I'm just taking a guess. This would be the 2W, along with the number 3 switch. Yeah, in terms of surprise re-signalings, the whole Empire Corridor definitely caught me out of surprise. And another problem with trying to do even surveys on the Empire Corridor, at least at that time, was that Amtrak on those Empire trains would frequently close off the last car after Albany. That's when business class is right behind the engine, so they would shoo everybody out of the coaches. So you weren't even guaranteed to be able to get a reverse view. I took a train up to Syracuse once. In 2003 or 4. Probably, no, it had to have been 4. For like a conference. Maybe it was 5 even. That would have been neat. And I remember that I had no ability. They closed off the last car after Albany. So even then, it was very difficult to get surveys. And the Lakeshore always had the problem with weirdo stuff on the back. I think they had like the Boston section sleeper. I was never in a sleeper at that time. I only started riding sleepers. It was like, oh wait a minute, I really need to get these signals, these photos, and if I'm gonna have to pay for a sleeper, but that's what I'm gonna have to do. What the? Come on. Oops. And this is another thing of the 4W-1. Like I say, yeah, these are all general railway signal, SA style searchlights. Fortunately, still, I'm currently nailing down plans for another Boston area, New Hampshire type area trip, including Vermont, hopefully with some business class. For early September. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a car available for that or not. It depends on my other friend. I mean, if we both take Amtrak up, then ironically I'm not going to have a car for the trip back. Not even sure I'm going to be able to get down to Lowell at that point. I had some unfinished business at Lowell last year, and the lack of car will be a problem. But I have an Amtrak class upgrade I need to use. I could one way it. We'll see how it goes. So the question is, do I focus in on those guys, or do I do a little bit wider to get this thing here? Probably want to capture that track a little bit. Oh, just don't know how I'm going to do it without grabbing in all this damn ballast. I just don't know. Bunch more sky, I guess. Yeah, that's probably the best compromise right there. So I'll see. I just got to see what I'm doing. Might also involve a Mount Washington Cog Railway. Get the steam run of the day, but it's really expensive. It's like $120. But I mean, you got to pay it. Again, I'm ticked off at that how they might have that they made everything diesel up there except for like one trip a day. I mean, the whole point of that was steam. All right, let's see if we got any issues here. All right, still looks good. Heh. I mean, it depends. They really don't like people hanging out in the back, like empty cars. Usually I've had both. It's a total mixed bag. Some people are cool, some people aren't. It's usually just you gotta just take your chances on it. It's one of those things that, what is it? It's almost the problem is if you get into the problem with if you ask then and they say no, it sort of precludes you from being sneaky if the opportunity for being sneaky presents itself. So that's why I usually, if it's clear that, like, you know, if there's an askable moment, like, sure, but usually they're not going to go too far to, like, open another. And they almost never will open a car because of its, a lot of car openness has to do with collective bargaining type stuff. And just, I mean, that's just like one thing on top of another. But I've actually, at the same point, I've actually had people, let me ride. I've gotten in situations I've been able to ride in vestibules and been able to, when a car is empty but like it's open, they've just sort of I've had people let me hang out back there. I've had a variety of positive. It's more positive than not. But because of the CSX situation, I got a lot better at of getting out to places. I've missed a lot less since then than I have more recently. Sometimes it's simply a matter of I don't have an ability to get out somewhere. You know, you can't get everything, but it's that situation where you don't try that's really irritating. Seeing those trees of heaven there remind me that I gotta pull a tree of heaven from my garden before I go to bed, because the waste truck comes pretty early. I'm just gonna call this the 2E-2. See, does it have a number on there? Nah, it just scratches. Sometimes they will number these with some chalk type paint. Not sure why they have a little dwarf stack here as opposed to the other ones. If you go to the map, this is where I mentioned there used to be sort of a west of Mohawk, south, an alternate line. It's now a rail trail. Kind of like the Mule Shoe Curve line or whatever. Half local freight, half like just freight bypass type of thing. I don't know what it was called, but that was part of the whole like West Shoreline type thing, where the Pennsylvania outfits controlled by the Pennsylvania Railroad were working on creating a direct competition to this New York Central. So that's the Central retaliated by starting to work on the South Pennsylvania Railroad, which was what the Turnpike alignment was built on. So they both, they basically, once both those lines were started, they agreed to not complete them. Although the Central, or hand them over to the other folks. So the West Shore Line was more useful to the New York Central than the South Pennsylvania Railroad was useful to the PRR. I think this is just for maintenance of way dump siding purposes now. I can't remember. I could have sworn that like I came out to RJ again to check on it, and I was like, oh, it's still good. I'll check it later, but I don't know why. But I really should have been out here more. But it wasn't like I wasn't doing stuff. I just didn't have a super high priority. I wouldn't put a lot of time into it. As soon as this happened, I went nuts on everything else on the DNH, and I got almost everything I could on the DNH before it was zapped. The way you get to RJ is sort of interesting. If I can find it. There it is. There's this little dirt road at the end of a road and a little bridge, and you just sort of roll up and you're there. It's still probably an interesting place to go hang out, like to go visit. I might do it again sometime if I'm up there. I have nothing better to... So right now, because of Amtrak's on-again, off-again Rule 562 project on the Hudson line, I've been devoting most of my time to Hudson line stuff. So here's Fuller's Flyover. I don't know the entire story of this. I just have a couple of these photos, and I actually just recently got way better photos of this. But it's right over some U.S. highway. I believe this is looking westbound. Yeah. So where it is hold on. There it is. So Fuller's Flyover is where the Selkirk Branch reverses directions. So it goes from a normal like right-hand running to a left-hand running. And apparently this was so that on the Central, the 4-track main line, instead of sort of the PRR where you would have passenger, you'd have two parallel single directions. This one, I think that they wanted the two center tracks to be operating in the same direction, I heard, to prevent accidents, and the outer tracks would be operating the reverse direction. So your express passenger trains would be running parallel to the freight trains in the same direction. Another thing that I've heard, it just made the stations easier. Yard access is easier if you had both lines running at one. Holdover days for... I've also heard that, just again in this one, it just I've heard people say that it was because they needed to alter. It wasn't on the main line. It was just to alter how trains went into Selkirk Yard. I don't know. Maybe someone can give me the exact answer. But what the result is, you have a triple stack bridge right over U.S. Highway 20. So you have your Selkirk, one of the Selkirk tracks. You have the highway and then two bridges on top of each other. Also, if you've ever been down to this location, you get a lot of pictures here at the Waterville Dam. I've been there at least once, but I don't think I have a lot of good photos at it. I got to go back there at some point. In fact, I should go there. That's a good photo op. I should definitely do that. I'll put that on the list of some places to do photo ops with some people. So anyway, this is the logically what it looks like. So I guess trains just come out of Selkirk Yard reverse and then fly over, because they tend to operate the proper direction on the actual Chicago line. That looks like how it's going on. You have trains coming out of Selkirk. See, I don't have the track numbers with me right now. Anywho. This is Fuller's flyover in the what I would have to call a southward direction. I don't have... Do I have it? Okay. Southward, and here's just sort of a crummy photo of it looking northward. It's a neat thing to see, but I don't know how good of a photo location it is, just because you don't see it. Just comes right out, like the trains are going to come right out of the trees. So you don't tend to see a lot of photos here, just because you have very restricted angles. If this was in the American Southwest, people would be all over it. Finally, we're at CPVO in Voorheesville, New York. I really wish I could date these generic Conrail signal bungalows a little bit better. Okay, I want to catch those tracks in here. Okay, that's good. So the question is which direction. Okay, I know where this is. So the neat part about what CPVO was, and I say was because it still is, but it also isn't. There it is. So CPVO, that's the original outline. I preserved that outline on Wikimapia before it was gone. It was the crossing of the Delaware and Hudson's Albany branch with the Selkirk branch, and it was also an interchange. Today, the interchange is still there, but not used. The Albany branch from here to Albany is a bike trail. The D&H is intact, but it's sort of a spur because it's used to service this Northeast Industrial Park, which used to be a defense services agency, weapon, like military stockpile location. A lot of these, you'll see these all over the place. Where if you go and you'll see this sort of bump out with rail tracks, with like tracks, and these long sort of buildings. These are all military. There's an active one near Harrisburg, and there's one on near Rowena on the Enola branch. These are all just military warehouses that were built during World War II and were subsequently sold off. I think this is switched by SMS lines, notable of that also has they have an Albany division, and I think that SMS lines works that, and they run things back to this junction here. I got to get out to this junction. There's some good searchlights there. There's the junk. Oh, has it already been did they get that already? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that this is still good. Let me just double check. Ah, damn it. Oh man, Google Maps is failing me hard. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's still searchlit there. So, what was back to CPVO? What's CPVO? Like I said, it was simply a crossing. Now, this was still active up until the very early 2000s. The track was there and even used, but it was just sort of how. I think what happened was that CP. They already had access to Albany from the north, and I believe that they simply got trackage rights for whatever cars needed to go that way. It just didn't make sense for them to maintain this whole southern route into Albany when they had a northern route, and there was almost no traffic coming from the south into Albany. Anything that they wanted to send out, they could just send out to the north. There's just no reason to maintain this. And even then, they could. I think that there was something they could get trackage rights coming into the south from the into the port of Albany via the old New York Central route. So anyway, totally redundant line. By the time I got there, the neat part is that there's a crossing. There was a crossing right at. That's the neat part. There's a crossing right at the diamond. And in the middle of the interlocking. Come on. I'm on Chrome. Like, you should know how to do this. So anyway, you can see the diamond went, the crossing, like the road went, like the diamond was right immediately next to the road. Why the hell is Google Maps dying now? Great. Alright, whatever. Oh, there it goes. So this is where the old CPVO was and is no longer. But the interchange track is kind of still there, but they don't even have any grade crossing protection on it. So kind of sad. Anyway, back to what I care about. So this is from the crossing, looking at CPVO, the relay hut. Again, CPVO stands for Voorheesville. Unlike the rest of the Central, the Selkirk Branch kept its telegraph signals. I think that's just because they would have had too many redundant mileposts. So the Central or Conrail just, instead of having duplicate CP193s, or probably would have been like 140 areas, they just was like, all right, we'll let this little bit of track have the cool designations. So by the time I got there in 2006, the diamond was cut, but the signals were still there. I can't remember if they were lit, but I'm pretty sure they weren't. I can't remember positively if they were lit, but I'm pretty sure they weren't. I think I have a photo, but the photo is just going to show it whatever. So the DNH was definitely being on a north-south alignment. Because, of course, you don't want to have extra diamonds. No one likes extra unnecessary diamonds. So another neat part of CPVO was that on the Conrail side of things, it had two. Oh, that's why there's like weirdness here. Because the reason I always say like Conrail always felt like it had been re-signaled recently, and that's why it caught me by surprise. It's because all the signals are post like 1985, after the right-hand rule was abolished. So at some point, Conrail did come in. So this would have been this guy, reverse direction. That one would have been a post 1985 modification. You can see that's a newer thing with the bolts and the footing. Whereas this is an original New York Central, or a more original New York Central signal, and there's your finial too. So, but anyway, two other neat bits of CPVO is that the masts were single-headed absolute signals. Very rare to see that, especially on Conrail. I mean, very rare to see that in a lot of railroads. I mean, there was almost usually a reason to have a two-headed signal, or just a restricting. You need the East Coast railroads are pretty good with having restrictings. No restricting on this. Yeah, so no single-headed signals. Other thing that was interesting. One sec. I mean, and also this crossing was right in the middle of the interlocking, so you could just sort of roll up and not have to worry about anything. Again, when I say it was in the middle of the interlocking, I literally mean like the interlocking was very, very, very short. Like this is not. Oh, this is where CPV. Like this outline is not me simply representing something that had vanished. I don't know where the actual interlocking limits were. When I put this in place, what this is going to say. Well, I don't know who. Okay, it does have this. When I put this in place 13 years ago. That's the exact outlines of the interlocking, and you can see from here that it's that's an accurate portrayal of how long it was, which is very, very short. Another neat thing is we got some stuff on the interchange track. I think they were just mainly cars full of scrap metal. Don't know what where they were going or what they were doing, but they were there. Here we have the southbound mast, DNH mast signal. Remember I said, if you remember last week or yesterday, DNH was a three-headed railroad. And CPVO is just a diamond, but the DNH is going to put in a three-headed signal. There was something online I saw that had the history. The reason I even was aware of CPVO is I saw a picture of it on some website that was taken in the late 90s where the diamond was still active. Yeah, these were. I mean, I can't say that these were burnt out because everything was approach lit. Now, of course, if a track is ripped out, in theory, it should be always indicating is occupied because the circuit won't be working. But again, these were completely. They were just no light was coming from them, but I couldn't tell if that was because if they were ghost signal. What category of ghost signal were they? So that's the thing. There's no other interlocking appliances here. So it was a ghost interlocking. You had signals protecting a diamond that no longer existed. Pretty neat. I'm sure it was causing some degree of operational headaches. But wait, there's more. So hold on to your hats. Let's see if people have any comments. I got some comments. I mean, regarding Mount Washington, like, it'd be nice. I mean, okay, I don't mind that if they even had a lot of their stuff was diesel, but they only do like one run a day, and it's the first run. Like, why would you make it so you have to get up there so early to catch it? Like, make it, like the midday run or the end of the day. It's almost like it's like a hostility there. I have no idea. What's my take? It's great that they're gonna do it. I love the fact that they're doing all the stuff with the Baldwins. To risk getting tomatoed, I'm not like a huge Steam, like, I'm not one of those people that can just go out and give you the latest news on a steam locomotive by like just referring to it by number. That's not my area of expertise. I can't be experts on everything. Like I did a Steam charter with all the Steam people recently. It was super, 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 super fun. But from a how things work point of view, I do not find Steam very approachable. It's very difficult for I can go and do like sort of the technical community. Like I can go and explain to people everything about like diesels and electrics. And Steam is a way, way, way more esoteric topic in terms of how the suspension works. And there's all these little like bits and pieces that went into making Steam tech work. That's very hard to explain and is also lost and is almost entirely a lost art. Double bridge. What do they do in the UK? Oh, the single-headed signals. Oh yeah, I know. It just well, the U.S. always has it's at least in the Northeast, it's common for you need to have the second head for restricting. Well, anyway, we're going to talk about the UK here, and I was just about to get on and talk to the UK about the UK. Oh, I don't know. First off, I don't know what tracks anything is. Let's see if the old me knew what tracks those were. Please know what tracks those were. Nope. No. Damn it. Okay. Now I gotta go dig up a track number on the Selkirk. Oh, I can find it elsewhere on the Selkirk branch. Maybe not. Where are those? Oh, I know where they are. Okay, here we go. Gotta find them. These are neat little documents that I have. I forget where I dug them up, but I'm not sure they're going to have track numbers, unfortunately. It's a sort of employee's guide to everything on a line, including the mileposts of every grade crossing, signal location. See, there's your CPVO, but of course well, anyway, I'll get to why it's. Oh, I know what happened. Yeah. Shoot. Yeah, it's when I hit the desktop thing. It doesn't like that at all. Hold on, let me fix it real quick. All right, I'll just do one second. I'll just get it. Just give me 1 sec. Go through the process. Start there. Do this. Source screen capture. Smart selection. There. Oh, is it back? Okay, there it goes. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the back. So I'm pretty sure I knew what caused it. I just forget about that. Anyway, this is what I was showing. All you missed was me going through folders. This is these really neat Conrail employee diagrams of the entire Chicago line. In fact, they even have I'm trying to think of what. Anyway, but it's all diagrammatic. It doesn't have the track numbers. All right, hold on. I have to go through like all these things to try to find oh, I know where they are. CSX. I have CSX Albany division. I have to go to the Conrail era. Come on, shut up. Mohawks, blah, blah, blah. Here you go, Selkirk. And this is 2004, so this would have been right before things got annoying. Yeah, CPFB, CPVO, and which track is which? Track 1. That's the signal at track... Oh, jeez, it's all got messed up. All right, here we go. This is track 1. Nope. Okay, good enough. Yeah, just very rare to see single-headed absolute signal. So it's not rare in the West. You see them a lot in the West, but usually on single-track lines, like siding exits. Westbound track 1. We have the track 2. Oh, this is the same track 1 mast. I just walked around it. I do have a photo, 1 second. I do have a photo of, so this is CPRJ back in the day when it had in Central Times, 1950s. It looks like some Model 2 switch machines. Definitely a pistol grip in there. The only picture I have of Voorheesville is just this little thing of the crossing with that mast is not in the original position. There's the diamond. Which way would this be looking? This would probably be looking, yeah, there's the crossings in the same spot. They extended the interlocking limits. That station likely has an agent operator in it. But anyway, this is what it looked like sometime again in the 1950s. Probably taken by the same guy who took a picture of the other one. So at least I got a picture of the signal head here. There we go. I just love the fact that my crappiest, oldest camera had the best color correction. Okay. This is likely the other signal head. A little soft. And like I said, here we just have whatever is sitting on the interchange track. I'm not even sure if these were like they didn't feel like active interchange cars. They felt like someone had parked a bunch of scrap stuff there. But again, I don't know. I wasn't there enough. Oddly, what was interesting was that I learned that someone I knew, and I think still, I don't know if he's still on the forum. I think he comes. There's someone on the forum who lived like right nearby here. I later learned that I was within spitting distance of his house. I used to pinpoint. I pinpointed where he was, but I'm not sure I could find it. Now I'm intentionally withholding one interesting detail on CPVO, and here it is. CPVO had a crossover, they just weren't interlocked. On either side of the diamond, there was a hand crossover. And this is CTC territory. Oh yeah, I knew that they took. I'm not sure they've taken out all the semaphores. I don't know. I know they got to the wigwag. The wigwag was not actually in the semaphore zone. Yeah, that's the thing. All the west stuff has single heads, but you don't tend to see it in the east so much. In fact, there's a lot of roads that, like NS, will always have a two-lamped thing at an absolute. So anyway, this is something that I'm gonna rotate this or not. So CPVO had a pair of hand throw crossovers. I don't know why. I guess, it wasn't the only crossover in the stuff. Although I will say CPSH, I guess it is 10 miles away from CPSH. CPSH would be where the Carmen sub joins in. That's how trains on CSX will get to West Albany Yard without having to go through Schenectady and deal with Amtrak a lot. So they do this little sneak, and get over to the Hudson line, and then go over to West Albany Yard. And there's a power crossover there, and I'm pretty sure that's always been a power crossover. Then you have RJ, CPRJ, about 8 miles after that. Again, it's about within line of what you get for 10-mile crossovers. So, but to avoid, I guess, having this giant, let's see, CPFB is at milepost 17, and CPSH is at milepost 31, about 15 miles. They just randomly had these hand throw crossovers. I don't know why. I mean, they're there in this picture. You know, and once something's on a railroad, it never tends to leave. So, back in the day of Rule 251 and towers, the hand crossovers here were probably just made sense. Anyway, let me get to the stuff with the UK people. In the UK, any sort of hand crossover. I'm not saying not they do have hand crossovers, but they're very well interlocked. I mean, like they'll have like a ground frame, and anything that's declared to be facing, so their stuff is both odd and not odd. First off, almost everything in the UK is Rule 251 ABS. So if you ever know in a tower where they'll have the mechanical ones, they have a facing point lock. Well, in the US, everything's a facing point because every movements can move in any direction any time, so every point has facing point locks. In the UK, only facing points do. But regardless, they're going to have almost every sort of hand crossover will have a multiply redundant way of locking the points. So when I showed the people that this hand throw had this one, that was the only thing holding the points steady. You had a detector here, but the only thing holding the points on an active 50 mile an hour freight main line was this one bar, and that was locked from moving by this electric lock right there. That's a little if you ever go through your Union, I used to have a Union switch and signal catalog PDF. And that's one of that's a GRS, but Union has the same products. But that's an E-lock right there. It's like their cheapest one. So this one I'm pretty sure is going to be the. See, that's what I don't know. Is this facing point or not facing point? I think that this is the trailing side because the direct flow of travel. No, I'm on the other side of Fuller's. No, I'm not. So I'm pretty sure that this is a trailing point switch. Or is it? I don't know. I don't know how things get into Selkirk. It could be facing or trailing. That's important because it's how if I don't know the switch name, I'll say it's a facing crossover or it's a trailing crossover. So if trains are running reverse I think that I don't know if trains are running reverse on this side of Selkirk or not. I'm on the last set of photos and things are bogging to a halt because I don't know how trains leave Selkirk Yard. You know what? I bet that diagram that I had. Oh, damn it. See, this is where I got to go. I can't hit the show desktop button, so I got to do it manually. There you go. Map. Conrail. Here. Do I have anything with Selkirk Yard? Oh, I've got to. Come on. Now, they only have West Albany Yard. They don't really care about Selkirk Yard. I mean, is it its own thing? I guess not. Anyway, sorry about that. I'm just trying to figure out how trains enter into the yard. Let me just double check. You still seeing stuff, or is it screwed up? No, I didn't. I made sure I didn't. But anyway. No, it's back on this side. Yeah, okay. There it is. Anyway. You didn't miss anything. I'm just trying to find out if this is facing or trailing. I'm just going to pretend it's reversed. I could do a poll. I have a feeling that I have a feeling that today that this is going to be, it should be trailing, but I'm going to call it facing. because of fullers. So anyway. No, I'll just maybe just say what direction. So CPVO, it's the east. Hold on. It would be. Sorry about the whatever there. But I just loved how the British people were apoplectic about how unsafe this was. You know, like, you can't do that. Like, if there's so many single points of failure there. And I mean, they're not entirely right, but at the same point, that's why we have crashworthiness standards that are robust. You know, it's sort of like, where do you put your money? Do you put them by making your hand-operated switches that are all over your main lines to be, like, ridiculously complicated? Or do you just, like, build your rolling stock to have a modicum of, what do you call that? Rigidity. This is interesting. This is some sort of, there's got to be, like, a central lock down here, because it just had this really bizarre, like, back drive. It might be trying to connect, because each end had a hand throw. So yeah, I don't know. So this is the detector bar, though. That's the drive bar. That's the detector bar. So it looks like if the back drive is definitely detecting point movement on the other end. Or maybe if I don't know, maybe if the lock is engaged. Nah, it's hitting the detector bar. So anyway, there's a back drive. There's some sort of weird pipeline that would connect both ends of the switch. Would have been neat to see that this whole process, you know, this hand throw used. It's not. I mean, it's definitely not used frequently, but I can't say it doesn't look so rusty that it's never been used, or maybe it has. Maybe that is, I don't know what that level of rust is. So facing crossover, east switch. This is just east switch, eastbound. Oh, that explains it. And the handstand again, just a different angle to capture it. This is the sort of quirky stuff that I mean, there's a lot of stuff. This is the kind of thing you'll still run into. Old switch stands and switch locks. Those they look like little houses where they do the switch unlock procedures. Those are the things that you still can see. You know, it used to be that, like, oh, everything's new, but the signals are still old. That's the surviving element from, like, the old days, and then they all went away. But you can still every so often find a few bits of surviving elements of the old school operation. But like I said, a lot of it depends. I mean, the UK actually has, like, specific facing point. Like, Parliament passed a bill that required facing point locks. Partly because, you know, there was a point in time where, at least even on interlocked stuff, you only had like a single tower operated bar and no point. You had effectively no point detection. In the U.S., we use facing point locks, not necessarily to lock facing points, but we use it as a form of point. It also serves as a form of point detection. The facing point lock cannot be engaged unless the points are in the properly located area. And then you on the interlocking machine, the facing point lock indicates to the interlocking logic that the points are lined properly. And they're also locked, but the alignment is what is also important. That would be replaced by point detection in the point machine, or as you saw there, that little wart-shaped device. That's your point detector. For those of you who don't know, this thing here, that's a circuit controller. Sometimes it's called, but that handles your point detection. There's a very precisely calibrated bar that goes to the very front of the points, and if that is in any way not where it should be, that will break like 4 or 5 circuit contacts in this box, and then that tells in this case, the ABS signaling system that there's a track occupancy. This is just the DNH going to the north. This is your southbound mast, rear. There was a something not too long ago where Amtrak had to operate over the Selkirk Branch, and that was pretty neat. I remember the people were all over it because they were doing something either at Schenectady or wherever where they had to close down the Hudson line, and they just did it was a pretty simple detour, but I'm sure people were super thrilled by the opportunity. I did not get to go out and do that one, but I did the fall foliage trips when they were still happening, and that was really fun. No one knows quite how they got the CSX to sign off on that one that went up the West Shore line, but they got some vice president of the division probably signed it on his way out the door. And here we go. Another view of the northbound signal mast, DNH mast. Yeah, even CPVO, just with these 3 headers and the 4 masts and the switches, I likely would have easily been around 200, 300 photos for this, maybe closer to 200. CPRJ in a modern setting would have been easily 300 or 400 photos. And one last neat thing, one of the cars on the interchange track was an L&N. That would have been Seaboard system, of course. I'm not gonna. I'll save the rest of that stuff. But I'll let people know right now that if you see, you don't have a lot of years left on Heritage, NS, or CSX rolling stock. You don't see it a lot, but you see it enough that you might not care. And you should start caring, because there are regulations and stuff that require a 40-year or 40 to 50 years, depending, and you can get waivers to get them a little longer. After that time expires, they get scrapped or moved into maintenance away. I don't know about if they can get rebuilt, but if they get rebuilt, they're going to get repainted. So just remember that NS became a thing in the mid-'80s, like 86. So that's when things stopped being painted as N&W or Southern Rolling Stock. 1986, add 40 or 50 years, you have a little time. Same with L&N, Chessie, SCL. They're around. They're not a lot, but if you guys see them, get pictures of them, because that's going to be one of those things that are going to be gone suddenly. what is 40 years? So that's it's going to be between 2026 and 2036 that your Southerns and your NNWs start vanishing. Anyway, that's everything here. Sorry for those brief outages, but I don't have to say nobody missed anything. It was just me browsing files briefly as I tried to find a track number. Let's see if we can have any stuff here. Yeah, no, the UK is all about the ground frames. That's just, like they just loved mechanical levers, and they stuck with it. Continental Europe also mainly has those, but they're not quite as elaborate as what the UK does. A mainline hand throw for, let's say, for a crossover will have, let's say for a crossover, but it can be a non-crossover, you're going to have at least 4 levers. There's going to be a brown lever, that's the unlock. Either via mechanical Annetz key or electric. You throw that one first. That physically impedes the other two, either through a variety of mechanisms. Sometimes an interlocking type thing with tappets, and other times it's literally like a bar that prevents the other stuff from moving. Then you have 2 black levers. Those are your actual things that will throw the points via pipeline. And you have a facing point lock that if it's a crossover and facing point, it will lock both points. If it's just a single switch and it's facing point, it will lock one. Sometimes the brown level will also be the facing point lock, so it'll be blue and brown. Sometimes if it's power, it'll be black and blue. Okay, anyway, that's it. Thanks for joining in. I'm going to be back. Probably going to be a one-night stand on the night of July 23rd to 24th. So Friday to Saturday. I will find something, but it's probably going to have to be a part 1 and then a part 2 later, either a week or 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching. I hope this was informative, and I will see you all back in 2 weeks. So stay safe. Have a great summer. Stay cool, and I'm just looking at how to turn this thing off. So, all right, I'll see ya.